Hi everyone, I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Reese.
And this is Charismatic Megafauna.
Hey Kels.
What?
What did you learn this week?
I didn't learn anything this week, which is a big old bummer.
I don't believe you.
However, I did rediscover something.
Oh, okay.
That I really want to talk about. This isn't a news story, and it has been around for hundreds of years. But today I want to talk about the dancing plague of 1518.
Sounds fun.
You'd think so, but it turns dark.
Yeah. That's right around when the word plague comes around.
Right. So, about 500 years ago, in Strasbourg, I think is how you'd say that.
Germany?
It's on the border of France and Germany. It's in France, though.
Okay.
But at the time, it was within the Holy Roman Empire.
Sure.
The story is this. In July of 1518, a woman began to dance fervently in the street. Not just a little ditty. The woman was taken by the rhythm.
Yeah.
Bailamos. What?
Bailamos.
Bailamos.
Let the rhythm take you over.
Anyways, within a week, she was joined by 35 others. And within a month, the number grew to over 400 people dancing in the street. Most of which were women.
Okay.
Don't know why that's important. But it was in the story.
It is unusual.
And it seemed unusual, so I figured I'd mention that. Now, like I said, it turns dark because people literally danced until they dropped. Some reports estimated that there were people dying every week, about 15 people.
Wow.
I saw people.
15 people a week. How many were there total?
400.
Jeez.
They died while dancing.
That DJ was on his game.
I mean, unfortunately. So there are a lot of reports that say that people died of heart attacks, strokes, or exhaustion, and that 15 people per week thing that I quoted doesn't really have great sources, but also it was 500 years ago. We don't know anything.
Yeah.
Like I said, at the time, too, the city manuscripts didn't mention the number of deaths, or even if people died at all. However, there were historical documents, including doctors' ledgers, sermons, local and regional chronicles, and notes from the Strasbourg City Council that made it very clear that the dancing did happen, and it was mania, and it was insane.
But we just don't know necessarily if anybody died.
Right.
Okay.
Now, this became such a problem that the city council actually hired physicians to come in and try and figure out what the heck was going on. And physicians, this is what was my favorite quote from the Wikipedia article.
Yes.
Physicians ruled out astrological and supernatural causes. Good. I don't know how they did that. Not great doctors. Don't want those doctors working on me.
Right. These are men of science, Kels. Just allow them their process.
I guess. Instead, they blamed it on natural disease. So guess what they prescribed for these people suffering from natural disease?
I want to say Earth, Wind, and Fire, but I assume it's something else.
Well, considering Earth, Wind, and Fire is about 475 years later. Less than that.
That's fair. Modern medicine, I forgot.
Yeah. Do you have another guess?
No, I don't have any real guesses. I'll save you the time.
All right, well, it's almost as absurd as Earth, Wind, and Fire because the physicians prescribed more dancing. They had the city council open up guide halls and markets, and they even built a wooden stage and hired musicians to play.
Sweet gig.
So they just turned it into this giant block party. However, this was a complete disaster because the dancing crowds only grew and the mania just exploded after they did this.
Sure.
Again, to over 400 people in under a month.
Possibly because it's not actually a medical condition.
Well, that's the thing. Let's jump into the theories as to why this happened.
Okay, all right.
Because people danced for a full month and suffered exhaustion, heat stroke, heart attacks, all these things. Whether or not people died isn't really mentioned. However, people were suffering from severe health problems.
Crazy. Okay, so maybe it is medical. There, we have some theories.
Okay. My favorite, although it's not the most likely one, is that they all ate something called the ergot fungi or ergo fungi. It's ERGOT.
Okay.
Now, this grows on wheat and causes psychosis similar to that of LSD.
So it's like a hallucinogenic mushroom.
Right, except for you get it from your bread. You accidentally bake with wheat that has this fungi growing on it and you don't realize it.
Oh my God.
And then you get super high. Now, like I said, this isn't very likely because this would have caused various symptoms, not just dancing, and the likelihood of everybody experiencing the exact same symptoms, very unlikely. However, the thought of a bunch of people eating a bunch of contaminated bread and getting super high and dancing their pants off for a month is hilarious to me. Rest in peace, those poor people.
I imagine the eulogy at that funeral would have been pretty amazing.
Yeah. Now, the other two theories, one of them is stress-induced psychosis on a giant level. So this area was riddled with disease and starvation, and the community itself was highly superstitious. In fact, 7 other dancing plagues occurred in the same region throughout the medieval era. So it's not like this was a new thing that happened to them. It was just on the scale of which it happened was pretty unusual.
Right.
So there are some scientists that believe it could have just been mass hysteria, or not mass hysteria, but stress-induced psychosis because they were living in such tough times.
Huh.
Now, the other one is actually just mass hysteria.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
Right. Which is basically just when small to kind of large groups. I think the largest number I saw was over 1,000 people experiencing mass hysteria. They suddenly exhibit the same bizarre behavior, which then spreads like an epidemic would. Now, again, these people were superstitious. They believed in some stuff that I don't necessarily believe in.
Well, wait a minute, though. I thought we've ruled out any superstitious astrological kind of...
No, just astrological and supernatural.
Oh, supernatural. Is that different?
Superstitions run wild.
Okay.
Again, though, these people were under a lot of psychological stress due to the disease and just ruthless years of warring and famine. So the Middle Ages, not great, pretty dark.
Yeah.
This area was among the most violent and horrible regions to be in. So these people went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I just can't blame them for up and dancing like mad.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta dance it out. I get it.
Yeah. Dance until you drop.
Right.
So again, a lot of weird stuff. It's very ancient. We'll never know why exactly it happened, but I just love it. It's so weird. It's so wonderful.
I feel like that would be a horrible but kind of awesome way to go.
Right. It's like that Greek guy who died laughing at his own joke. He laughed himself into a stroke of some sort.
Do we know the joke?
No.
That's probably for the best.
I've heard it's a dad joke. Like just a bad pun.
Yeah.
That he thought was way funny.
There may have been some other factors involved there. If this guy has sort of the usual dad persona, perhaps like a lot of red meat, some beer and cheese were involved.
Maybe not a heart healthy diet.
Right. I doubt it was like just that the joke was that funny.
It's more funny to believe that's what it was, though.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I think I'll choose to believe from now on.
So earlier this season, we did an introduction to raptors. So I thought maybe it'd be fun to do an introduction to some other groups that I'm passionate about.
Okay.
So today I thought it'd be fun to talk about mammals.
Mammals. I'm a fan.
Everybody's favorite charismatic megafauna.
Yeah.
So, Reese, now I have some questions for you.
Oh, is this a pop quiz?
A little bit.
Uh-oh.
What do you think makes a mammal different from other animals? What characteristics are unique to mammals?
Well, I want to say things like live births.
Okay.
The breastfeeding, mammaries, I assume, is a factor.
Yeah.
No, the face you made it. Did I say that in a stupid way or something?
I just love that you called them mammaries.
Mammaries, right? Is that not the colloquial term?
I mean, mammary glands. That's what
Boobies
produces
is
the
what
milk.
I'm talking about. Boobies.
Okay.
I don't know. That's all I got.
Okay.
I think maybe nothing. I don't have anything else. That's it.
Nothing else?
No.
All right. Well, one is right.
What? Only one of those?
Yeah. Most mammals will have live births. However, some mammals lay eggs.
Damn platypus.
And I think the echidna lays eggs.
The echidna, really?
I think. Let me look.
We should get a fact checker on the show.
That's me. I'm the fact checker. That's why our fact checking is so poor.
Yeah.
Yep, echidnas also lay eggs.
No kidding.
However, there are other animals that have live births too. It isn't just mammals.
Okay.
So like some fish, sharks, for example, some sharks have live birth.
So that's not specific to mammals, what
Right.
you're saying. Okay.
That isn't a characteristic.
You're looking for specific.
I'm looking for specific, yeah.
Okay. Mammaries.
Yes, mammaries.
That's all I got.
Okay. All right, cool. So there are 6 things that make mammals unique.
6?
6. Now, all of these exist to support the high cost of endothermy.
Okay.
Do you remember what endothermy is?
No.
Do you have a guess?
Well, I would imagine thermy is probably something to do with warmth.
Yeah. Temperature.
Endo. Internal temperature?
Yeah,
Is that all it is?
basically.
Cool.
So mammals have the ability to regulate their internal temperature. So they are endothermic homeotherms, which means that they have a constant body temperature, and that body temperature is driven by metabolism. So something like a lizard, which we'll talk about a lot in comparison to mammals, does not have its own internal body temperature. It gets its temperature from like laying out in the sun.
Oh, okay.
Mammals don't need to do that, which is unfortunate because I wish I could take 2 hours off of work and just lay in the sun.
Yeah.
Sorry, boss. My temperature is dropping. I have to go sit outside.
Gotta go. Quick suntan.
Right. Now, because they're endothermic homeotherms, they have to have a high metabolism. And this is metabolically expensive to be able to keep your body temperature regulated. However, like I said, it's independent of the sun, and this allows for vast expansion. So that means they can expand into the night, they can expand up to the poles through varying altitudes and across seasons. Mammals can stay in one place, which is beneficial in a number of ways.
Yeah.
But this allows them to become the animals that we know today. The fact that they can regulate their own body temperature.
Cool.
So like I said, all of the 6 things that make a mammal special feed into this ability or need to maintain their body temperature. So let's get into how they do this.
Okay.
The first thing that we're going to talk about is that they increased their efficiency of their locomotory systems. All I mean by that is they increase the efficiency of their bodies and how they move in comparison to something like a lizard or a fish.
Okay.
So mammals have determinate growth as opposed to indeterminate growth. And this means that we reach a certain size and that's how we stay. We
Okay.
grow through childhood and adolescence, and then we stop growing.
What's an example of something that has indeterminate growth?
Basically anything else but birds.
Really?
Lizards, fish, amphibians.
Interesting.
They just grow throughout their lifetime. Trees.
Okay.
All kinds of things.
I should have gotten that one. I'm thinking animals in my defense.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the older they get, the bigger they get.
Okay. Cool.
Not true with humans.
No.
At least in height.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Now, this specialization allows for our joints to stabilize because our arm and leg bones can fit into these joints, and the joints can be very stable, and the end of our bones can be very stable because our bones have bony caps that don't grow. So basically the way a mammalian bone works is each end has a cap on it, and then underneath that cap is a zone of growth. Now, when you're a kid, that's where all the action is happening. It's extending that bone, and that's how your bone gets longer. And then when it's done growing, they just turn off. But those bony caps are really important because they allow, like I said, for our bones to fit into joints and really smoothly and effectively move around. Especially for something like humans who are big apes, our rotating shoulder is really important. And it allows us to do an insane amount of things.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to this, we also have better head mobility. So the two top bones of our vertebra are our atlas and our axis.
Sure. Knew that.
Obviously. Mm-hmm. Now, these two bones allow for us to move our head up really far and down really far. They also allow us to go left and right and spin our head all around.
Okay.
That's super important because it allows us to capture prey more effectively. And that higher prey capture allows us to have a higher metabolic rate. Like I said, it all feeds back.
Sure.
So the next thing is also about our spine. As we travel down our spine below the atlas and the axis, our vertebrae are highly specialized. Some are really mobile, some are completely immobile. They contain things like ribs to protect our lungs and our heart. Our lower ones, like our lumbars, allow for extension and flexion, but you can't move left to right. So if you think about our hip bones, we can tuck our hips or really arch our backs, but it's really hard to move our hips side to side. Reese is trying it, which is unfortunate for all of you at home listening.
I think this might be the driving force behind my trouble salsa dancing.
No, I think that's something else.
Okay.
But anyways, all of these things allow for highly specialized ways of moving, including things like muscular tails that help us with direction. Obviously not humans, but other mammals. This allows for animals to travel really fast. If you think of like cheetahs, it allows for animals to swim really effectively, like dolphins and whales. But this sectioning off of our vertebra is super important. If we were to look at the spine of a lizard, like I said, we're going to pop back to lizards quite a bit. Not that I don't love lizards, they're amazing. But if you were to look at a lizard's spine, all of the vertebrae look exactly the same. They might vary in size a little bit depending on where they're at, but they're not specialized too effectively, whereas mammals are. Now, all of these things come together to basically resolve in we changed our stance from sprawling to upright. So if you think of, again, something like an alligator, they're flat on the ground. The way they're pushing themselves forward is not very effective. They have to dig into the ground, and it's really labor intensive, versus something like a giraffe, which is super tall off the ground. They can run insanely fast. They're on these little twig legs. It's just much more highly effective, the way that our bodies have evolved. Now, the second thing about mammals is that we have an increased ability to process food. This came about in a couple of ways. We have a jaw system that's highly specialized and very different from other animals. So again, go back to an alligator. The muscles to open and close a lizard's jaw attach to the inside of the cranium. In mammals, ours attach to the outside of our cranium. So you can feel the muscles along your jaw. They're going to be really intense right in the back corner of your jaw. But they attach up to our head along the outside. Now, this allows for us to really chew insanely effectively. We can chew up and down. We can chew in a circular motion, which is really important for animals like cows who chew their cud or who are chewing grasses and things like that. But this setup also allows for an unintended purpose, which is we can develop much larger brains. With a lizard, because their musculature is attaching on the inside of their skull, there's a huge limit on how big their brain can get. Our brain cavities, however, are completely decoupled from this. They're completely separate. So because we don't have musculature attaching to the inside, that hole where our brain is can just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and allows our brains to get bigger and bigger. Now, in addition to this, our jawbone and joint becomes one bone and one highly specialized joint. So our jaw is very similar to a hinge, like I was saying. This improves our bite force. It allows for that complex chewing I was talking about. It also protects our brain from chewing strain. So if you're something like a lizard, you can get headaches, I'd imagine, because of the strain on your jaw muscles pressing against your brain. Now these jaw changes also allow for better hearing. And we're going to talk about this in just a second, because our third thing that's special about mammals is improved sensory input and control. So, for hearing, mammals have 3 bones inside their ear: the stapes, the incus, and the malleus. These bones evolved from an ancestor's jaw bones. So like I said, our jaw turned into one bone, all those bones fused, and then 2 of those bones shrunk down into tiny little ear bones to help us hear better. Now, like I mentioned, these adaptations allowed for chewing to be its own independent thing. Hearing was also coupled with chewing for a long time, and still is in lizards.
How so? What do you mean?
Because of the fact that their hearing is so intensely tied to their jaw, because the bones they use to hear are the same bones that have fused in mammals.
Okay.
But those bones attached to their jaw are used in chewing, but are also used in hearing.
So, like, they can't hear anything when they're chewing?
They can't hear very well when they're chewing.
That sucks.
Yeah. Now, in addition to that, because these animals are so low to the ground, not mammals, but other animals, they also really struggle to hear airborne sound. They tend to hear a lot, or we believe they hear a lot, through the ground. Mammals have these wonderful 3 inner ear bones, and they're also up off the ground. So if you think about a cat or a dog, they've developed these movable ears that they can use to then spin sound or direct sound.
Sure.
Which is super important if you rely on your hearing, but it allows you to highly specialize to rely on your hearing.
Yeah, and you can probably more accurately locate things in your area, right?
Exactly.
The space.
Now, as well, because we can develop these giant ears, we can also amplify the sound, which is why there are some amazing listeners in the mammal kingdom.
And in the charismatic megafauna fandom.
Yes.
A shout out.
Now, in addition to increasing their ability to hear, they also increase their ability to smell. So as we were able to develop larger brains, we were able to dedicate much larger portions of our brains to smelling. Now, in addition to that, we also increased the surface area of our nose skin. So like internally, we have a lot more nose surface area than something like a lizard would have. And we have whole bones dedicated to it that have allowed for this increase in ability to smell. So something like a dog or a cat has these things called turbinals, which look like a bunch of rolled up scrolls up in their nose that we can't see. But it's a bone. And that bone allows them to more effectively process smell.
Okay.
And pick up really, really hints of smells that humans could never smell.
How come we don't have those?
Because we don't need them.
Oh, that's a simple answer.
Yeah.
For a stupid question, I guess. I'm not sure why, but it seems like a stupid question now that you've answered it that way.
No. If you think about something like a dog or a cat, they rely really heavily on their sense of smell to find tracks of other animals, to find their prey. Humans evolved eating things like fruits. You don't need to smell a fruit.
Yeah.
You can just see a fruit and eat the fruit. And there you go.
Okay. Problem solved.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Now, number 4 is that mammals have much better gas exchange than many other animals. Not birds, which we'll talk about that at a later time, not in today's podcast.
Okay.
But mammals have highly specialized and highly effective gas exchangers. And they do this in 2 ways. The first sort of starts to hint on your mammaries.
Okay.
Not yours in particular, but your idea of mammaries.
Yes. Yeah, no, I follow.
Because the first one is the development of a secondary hard palate. That probably means absolutely nothing to you.
No.
But if
No
you
idea.
take your tongue and you press it up against the roof of your mouth, you can feel that we have a bone up there. That's really unique to mammals. And this bone separated breathing from eating, which is super important because I know I choke while eating.
Yeah.
But if we were breathing and eating in one big hole, as opposed to separating it like the mammalian body has done, we'd be in a lot more trouble.
Yeah.
Now, this decoupling, this ability to separate breathing from eating, also allowed for another, again, I say, unintended purpose. And that purpose is suckling. Here's where we start to talk a little bit more about lactation and milk production.
Okay. That makes sense. So that bone allows us to, like, the shape of our mouths or what?
It allows us to actually produce suction. Because if it were all just one hole like it is in lizards, you don't have the ability to form suction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, in addition to this one's whatever. Mammals have a 4-chambered heart. This allows for really efficient oxygenation of the blood. So certain chambers of the heart can send blood out, certain can take them back in, as opposed to something like a frog where their heart is just one big open chamber, or 2 big open chambers, I think. And basically it mixes oxygenated and deoxygenated blood all into one big pool, and it's not very effective.
I'd buy that.
Yeah. All right, only 2 more things.
Okay.
So our 5th thing that make mammals special is that we have this ability to maintain our body heat, and we do this through fat and through hair. So I was actually a little surprised that you didn't come up with hair as being a mammalian thing.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about it.
Yeah. That's one that people list a lot. When you ask people what makes a mammal, a lot of times they'll say they don't lay eggs or they give live birth. They'll say they have hair. A lot of people will say they're warm-blooded. Things like that.
Hair is a big one.
Hair is huge. So 2 things. Like I said, we have fat, we have hair. We store fat underneath our skin, and that helps really to keep us warm in an incredible way. But it also gives us just a little bit of storage for if the winter gets lean. Now, our hair is something that I could talk all day about, but I'm not going to do that. Our hair is, again, highly specialized. You've heard me say this a lot. Mammalian bodies are highly specialized, but they're also highly diverse. I mean, think about the diversity in the mammalian group. From tiny mice to giant giraffes to flying animals like bats to humans. I mean, that's an insanely large and diverse group.
It's a broad spectrum.
Yeah. Now, mammals are the only animals that have true hair, and these hairs each have muscles attached to them. I think it's called the erector pili muscle. I could be making that up. But basically, it's this muscle that allows us to stand our hair on end. Now, in humans, that looks like goosebumps.
Yeah.
But in something like a cat, it could be puffing up to tell something, hey, I mean business, don't come any closer.
Right.
Which is just insanely cool to me.
So why was that developed? Just as a signal kind of thing?
No, it was developed to keep us warm.
Oh.
That's a great question. If we have hair that covers our body, we can again, spread out into more cold environments because that hair will help to keep us warm.
Right.
Now, because our hair is so important, we also have glands to protect this hair that secrete oil that keep our hair in good shape. And in addition to this, we have sweat glands and capillary networks that also help us to regulate temperature. So between hair, fat, the sweat glands, and those capillary networks, that really helps on the surface to keep our skin warm and to make it so that we don't have to work so hard to keep our metabolism high and to keep our bodies at a consistent temperature.
Yeah.
So again, like I said, all 6 of these things were developed to help support that insanely energy. I wouldn't call it inefficient, but the high cost it takes to stay a warm-blooded animal.
Yeah.
All right, we're on the last one, and it's the one that you came up with.
Boobies.
I was going to say lactation.
Sure. That's what I meant.
Now, for this, we'll go back to the mouth and the jaw and the teeth. Mammals are really special again because we have specialized teeth. We have teeth for different uses, which allows us to either be intensely specialized, like a cat, with those super sharp teeth that it's using to kill things, or super generalized, like a human. We have a variety of different teeth that we use for a variety of different things, and it allows us to eat all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
That's great because I love a broad variety of food.
You can thank our mammalian ancestors for that. Now, mammals also have 2 generations of teeth. So we're born with our baby teeth, and then we get our adult teeth later in life. This allows for head growth long after birth, and also that increased brain size we were talking about earlier. So when we're born, our heads are tiny and they're mushy and they're weird, and we have no teeth, but we do have the ability to suckle. Whereas you move through our life, we start to develop teeth, our head reaches a certain size, and then we lose those teeth and we get bigger adult teeth that will last us for the rest of our life. Now again, lactation was huge in helping us to increase our brain size, in helping us to spread throughout the world. But this allowed for easier births for females as well, because they could give birth to a smaller baby and then they could provide it with liquid nutrients, which are really easy for babies to process. Now, I'll remind everybody that carrying babies is not easy. So if you can be pregnant for the lowest amount of time possible, that's really good for you. Because if you're pregnant, you're having to get a lot of extra food. You're really sensitive to danger because you can't move as fast.
Yeah.
You probably have to sleep more. I don't know. You're growing a child, so feels like that you'd be sleepy.
I'd imagine it takes a toll.
Right. But yeah, if you can give birth to these tiny babies, now you can stash them somewhere while you go off and hunt, or you can carry them with you like a kangaroo might.
What do you mean stash them somewhere?
I'm thinking of things like deer who will leave their babies, or even wolves leave their babies in a den.
In a den,
leave them somewhere safe, stash them somewhere safe.
Daycare, I guess, humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this ability to lactate gives babies this ability to grow a lot after they're born. And, you know, women don't have to give birth to babies the size of 6-year-olds.
That's good.
Yeah, I agree. So, right, we'll go back. I'll give you a general overview. But just as a reminder, everything about mammals exists to help them be warm-blooded and just make sure that they can be as energy efficient as possible.
Interesting.
Right. So they changed their locomotory systems. They increased their ability to process food through all those really cool jaw changes. They improved their hearing and smelling abilities. They have insanely good gas exchange throughout their body. We have fat and hair to help us stay warm. And of course, your favorite.
Lactation.
Boobies.
Oh. Right. My segment today is on the 4 temperaments.
You sounded like a classical or like a host on a classical radio station. And now we'll be listening to Chopin's Fifth Movement.
I'm Reese LaRue filling in for Bob Smith, who's been filling in for Joe something. I'm out of last names.
You maxed out at Smith?
I maxed out at Smith. Sorry, I drew a blank. Anyway.
The 4 temperaments.
Yes, the 4 temperaments, or 4 temperament theory, was a concept developed by Hippocrates as part of humorism.
Humorism.
Are you familiar with this?
No.
It's basically Greek, like ancient Greek medicine. Their sort of philosophy behind their medical practices.
Oh, okay. Not what I would have guessed.
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty amazing. Honestly, I love humorism. In retrospect, it's pretty hilarious. It was groundbreaking stuff at the time.
Is it humorous?
It's. I didn't want to be the one to go there.
I did.
So Hippocrates basically believed that certain human moods, emotions, and behaviors were caused by an excess or lack of bodily fluids.
Oh my gosh, yes. This is screaming back to me.
Yeah.
Like a speeding train.
Right? Isn't this amazing? These fluids are known as humors. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It gets better. So they're based on the 4 classical elements. Do you remember those?
I don't know that I've ever known these. 4 classical elements.
You've heard of them.
Is it not earth, wind, fire, and air?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, well, duh.
Yeah. Kels, the 4 classical elements.
When you throw in classical in there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail you. So these humors are fluids that mix around in human bodies, and depending on how they mix together, that determines certain moods or personality traits.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's like the ideal mixture?
There are a few of them, but I didn't really focus on those because those aren't the 4 temperaments. The 4 temperaments are the other ones that are not the ideal mixtures.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm ready.
So this idea was further developed by, I think it's pronounced Galen. He was also a Greek philosopher. And don't laugh, that's his name. It might be Galen. I think it's Galen, though.
Okay.
He was also
Don't laugh, people.
He was also a Greek physician and philosopher,
Like they all were?
Like they all were, exactly. And he developed this idea into those four temperaments that we know today. And they are sanguine, choleric, melancholic, and phlegmatic.
If I'm not phlegmatic, I'm gonna be pissed.
You're not phlegmatic.
Damn it.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll get to that in a sec.
Is there a BuzzFeed style quiz at some point during this episode? Because if not, I'm going to be real upset.
There's, I wouldn't say it's BuzzFeed style, but there's absolutely a quiz.
Nice.
So sanguine is linked to air, the element of air, and people with this personality type tend to be more social, they're outgoing, they tend to be more charismatic. What?
Megafauna?
Exactly. On the other hand, people who are choleric, this has to do with the element fire, they tend to be more independent, decisive, and ambitious.
I know which one I am.
Mm-hmm. Then there's melancholic, which has to do with the earth. They tend to be analytical, reserved, and anxious.
Oh, shit. Can you be more than one?
Yes. And then there's phlegmatic, which is related to water, and they tend to be relaxed, quiet, and sympathetic.
That's not me. I'm none of those things.
So these are 4. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with personality types like this, or blends of personality types like this. This has been the basis for various models in the psychological community, most notably in the Myers-Briggs type indicator, or MBTI.
MBTI?
Yeah.
Is that the one where it's like EN? TF, or is that a different one?
No, I think that's the Myers-Briggs one.
Okay.
And they have, all of those combinations have like a label assigned to them. I don't know them all because there's a bunch.
Oh, like the achiever and the mediator.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you are? Aren't you the mediator?
I think I might be the mediator. I've taken it a couple times and I got a different answer. The model that was used for the Myers-Briggs indicator is a pretty common model that's used in a lot of different areas in psychology. So I'm sure everybody's pretty much familiar with a model similar to this if they're not familiar with Myers-Briggs. But it all goes back to those 4 crazy liquids that were just mushing around inside of the Greeks.
Right. So did they just think we were literally just liquids? Like we're just a big meat bag filled with fluid?
From my understanding, it was kind of like that.
But they had to believe we had bones and shit, right?
I think so. I think it was like instead of internal organs, we had like this stuff sloshing around inside of us.
That's gross.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it gets even worse because the liquids themselves, they identify specifically what they are.
I don't like it.
Blood. Okay.
Logical.
Nailed that one. Yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. That's where you get phlegmatic.
Ugh. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be phlegmatic.
No. So which one do you think you are? Without looking at the Myers-Briggs thing, which one do you think you are?
I mean, I'm a mixture between fire and earth.
Do you remember their names, the temperament names?
Choleric is one of them. And anxious is the other one.
Yeah. Melancholic
Thank
is what
you.
you're looking for. That's the Eeyores of the group.
Dang it. It's always been me.
So I think I'm phlegmatic, which is a bummer. Because that's the phlegm one. Yeah.
I would agree. I think you're phlegmatic.
Don't say phlegmatic. It's phlegmatic. Which is, I don't know why I'm defending that. I think it's worse, actually.
No, I think that's a great thing to be, though. Relaxed, calm, phlegmy. I can't remember the other ones.
Sympathetic was
the
other one.
Oh, definitely.
I left out all the bad ones of that one because I knew it was me. So I picked all the kind of harsh sounding characteristics for the other ones, and I put in like the good ones.
Rude. I need a full list.
No, I'm just kidding. We'll link the 4 temperaments Wikipedia page because that was my resource today, and you can read into it what you want. There are also some really funny. These are some pretty classic pictures of people who have these temperaments. If you want to, we'll link this too, and if you want to take a look at these pictures, gals.
Oh, there you are.
Which one?
The guy with the forehead.
Yeah, I am the guy with the forehead. Dang it.
Well, there's 2 guys with foreheads, I guess. Why are they all men?
I'm talking the dude in the upper left that looks like Ben Franklin is me. The dude that looks like Mr. Filch.
Is that me? Am I Mr. Filch?
Yeah, that's one of you.
So I'm a mixture between Mr. Filch and every executive on Wall Street, it looks like.
Yeah. It's every executive on Wall Street at their indictment.
Damn it.
I'm just the 2 forehead guys.
Who else are you?
Melancholic, I think.
That's fair. We're all a little melancholic sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the 4 temperaments. Are you looking up the Myers-Briggs thing?
I was hoping to.
Go for it. Okay, so we took the Myers-Briggs test again, and we've got our results pulled up for you, and we're just going to talk them over. I, of course, as Kelsey predicted, wound up with the mediator.
He's always smack dab in it. He feels like he isn't, but he totally is.
I don't know if I'd say it's smack dab in it.
You always get it.
All right, whatever. So this would be basically the counterpart to phlegmatic in the 4 temperaments. So this personality type is labeled INFP-A, which I'm not 100% sure what that means, but that's what the label is.
Well, it boils down to, each one is you go one way or the other. So F, I think, is feeling or thinking. I'm making all of this up.
So some famous people that have this personality type: William Shakespeare, Bill, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Lucky.
I know. Bjork. You're going to be especially jealous with this last one.
Who is it?
It's Johnny Depp. I know you're a fan.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Lucky.
I know. Those are pretty good. So what'd you get?
Well, I bounce back and forth. So I can take this test 10 times, and every time I take it, I will either get the architect or the advocate. Now, that's because it bounces back between INTJ and INFJ. So INTJ and INFJ.
Okay.
INTJ is the architects. So some famous architects you might know are Samantha Power, Christopher Nolan, Colin Powell, and Elon Musk. So the architects are exactly what it sounds like. They're world builders.
Yeah.
They're people who they get out there, they're doing things. Boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Now, the advocate is pretty similar, where it's going to be people who are also getting out there, also getting boots on the ground, but it's for the purpose of helping people. So some famous advocates: Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, Alanis Morissette. One of these things is not like the other.
I was going to say, how'd you get in here?
Alanis Morissette does a lot of good.
I know. It's just that's a pretty lofty list there.
Yeah.
No disrespect to her. But
No. But yeah, 2 lists that I'm happy to be on.
Yeah.
Groups of people that I'm very happy to be with.
Yeah, for sure. But it's interesting, and it feels kind of reductive to boil it down in just 4 major categories.
Oh, definitely.
Which I think it is reductive to boil it down that far. That's probably why Myers-Briggs breaks it down even more than that. But people don't like to hear that they fall into this into a category with a bunch of other people.
But yeah, take the test. We'll post it in our blog post. So go to our website and look in this podcast episode, and I'll include it. And let us know what you are, because I love hearing about what people are.
Yeah.
I think the coolest part of taking these tests for me is reading and being like, damn, there's 16 different types of people and I am just one of them. But it's cool because it means that there are other people that are like you. It means you can find people to collaborate with.
And it helps. I've found that it helps when you're interacting with other people to know how to adjust to better interact with them.
Yeah. There goes Reese again with the empathy.
Whatever. I guess I'm a mediator.
All right. Well, you know what time it is now.
What time is it?
It's time for Feel Good Stories.
Oh, about time.
I know. So, Reese, would you like to reach into my little bag and pull out a D20?
Yes.
What color is it?
It is red.
Oh, a miscellaneous. Will you roll your miscellaneous die?
Yeah. I got a 7.
You got a 7. All right. So I'm going to talk to you today about a robot plant helper.
What?
It's a little robot plant helper.
Like a Roomba, kind of?
Actually, yeah.
Nice.
So this is from a Japanese tech company. They produce this robot. It's called a Hexa. It is a 6-legged little robot that you can put a plant into. There's a planter on top of it. And the robot chases sunlight around. So as sunlight moves through your house, the Hexa moves your plant into the light. It also spins your plant to make sure it's getting even sun. And it also has a little bell that dings when your plant is running a little low on water.
That is fantastic. The first off, the image that I got right off the bat was out of like a dystopian future hellscape, kind of. But then, you know, all the following the sunlight and rotating the plant. That's all really nice stuff.
It's a cute robot.
Yeah.
This one could take over.
Do we have a picture?
Yes. I don't think we can put it on because we don't have licensing. I can just attribute it.
Okay. It is still spider-esque, but not so bad.
I think it's cute. So as you finish up listening to this podcast, just remember, people are out there building little robots to help keep your plants alive. As always, I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Reese.
And this was Charismatic Megafauna.